Hello, YouTube. Thanks for stopping by my channel. I'm talking to you from my backyard here. Beautiful day here in Ohio. This video, I'd like to talk about whether or not I would recommend the military today for anyone. And as I've said in some previous videos, I retired from the Army. I did 20 years active duty, 3 years in the reserves. And overall, I had a great career. And I've been asked, why did you do 23 years? 23 years seems like an odd number. And yeah, I could have stayed in longer and got promoted and continued on. But anybody who does time in the military, whether they just do a couple of years or make it a whole career, you just know when it's time for you to go. And near the end there, it just became less enjoyable, and I had already done everything I wanted to do in the military, so I just decided, while I was still healthy enough, still have all my limbs, and survived it all. I have no PTSD, and I was, still young enough to go and do other things, so I decided to, and a lot of some changes too in the military. They're thinking about changing the retirement plan, and then with all the political stuff, and I decided to just go and take my benefits, my pension, and move on. And I joined the military, I think mainly as an escape. Growing up in a small town, I graduated high school, and I was working 2 jobs. One was at a greenhouse, and then the other place was assistant maintenance man at a trailer park. And I came home for lunch one day from the trailer park, and I remember asking myself, do I see myself continuing to do that? And the military was something that had been brewing in my mind. And of course, Army recruiters, military recruiters came to the schools and definitely got a hold of us younger people. And so they had talked to me in the past, and I had military in my family. My dad was drafted during the Vietnam War. He didn't have to go to Vietnam, though. And then my grandfather retired from the military. He did 20 years active duty, World War II, Korean War vet. And so I had that. And I was always fascinated by helicopters. 3 miles to the east here, back in the day, was based a National Guard medical evacuation unit, and they flew the UH-1 Hueys, and they would fly over the house, and that iconic sound of the Huey. And I would hear them approaching. I'd run outside, and a lot of times they flew right over the house, and so low that I could wave, and the crew chief would wave back. So I always liked them helicopters, and talked to the recruiter, and which I think they ended up lying to me. They said I wanted to become a pilot. They said, no, you just can't come right off the street and become a pilot. You're going to have to join the military and then later apply for the warrant officer flight training program. So I said, okay. So I ended up coming in as a helicopter turbine engine mechanic. And so I worked on helicopter engines, signed up 6 years right off the bat. That's quite a commitment to sign up for right off the bat, 6 years. And then also had airborne school in my contract, and which led me to Fort Bragg, 82nd Aviation. And so was in the airborne, and then later tried out for the Special Forces and became an Army Green Beret. Prior to that, while I was a mechanic, I was able to go to Ranger School. It was still open to all military occupational specialties at the time. So here I am, a turbine engine mechanic going through Ranger School, and made it. And then later on, then I joined the reserves for a while, left active duty, was a reserve drill sergeant. And then I applied for Warrant Officer Flight Training Program and got picked up for that, and learned how to fly a Black Hawk helicopter. And so here I was, I joined enlisted, made it to E6 promotable, was soon to be promoted to an E7, went through Warrant Officer School, became a Chief Warrant Officer 2, and then there was a shortage of lieutenants in aviation, and they were taking warrant officers who had their bachelor's degrees, which I did, and those who were interested, they were direct commissioning us. And I was asked and approached and asked if I would like to do that, and I ended up doing it. And I pulled off my CW2 and became a second lieutenant in aviation. And I sometimes regret that. I should have stayed a warrant officer, and I didn't realize just how administrative intensive being a commissioned officer is. So you're not doing as much flying as a warrant officer would. But it definitely grew me and pushed me and took me out of my comfort zone. And then I ended up retiring as a captain, and I could have continued on. I'm sure I could have made major, lieutenant colonel, maybe even a one-star general if I was still in the military. But today, would I recommend it? Well, let's see here. Let's talk about some of the benefits of it, if you do. You learn a lot, just the actual experience here. It's your first time away from home, and you meet people from all across the country, and so it's just quite a learning curve to be able to get out of your town and go see other things and broaden your horizons. And so that's a positive there. And the challenges that you have, and you overcome them, and you learn about yourself. So for a young person, that's a good thing. You're learning, you're growing up, and you're doing grown-up things for the first time, and being reliant on yourself, and learning how to work with other people as well. So that's a positive of joining the military. You learn skills, valuable skills. It makes you a better person. Oh my goodness, of all that 23 years of accumulated skills, from learning how to maintain a helicopter turbine engine, to shooting airborne, jumping out of airplanes, all types of weapon systems, explosives, door kicking schools, all the specialty schools that you learn. And I learned how to fly a helicopter. So just all those cool skills that you learn. Finances, economic reasons. You know, it was great pay. You can advance if you so choose. And of course, the medical that you get, the dental care that you get. And then if you do like I did, and you do make it a career and do it 20 plus years, you come out of there with your benefits. I mean, I personally, for a single guy, I pay less than $50 a month TRICARE, you know, and I have medical, dental, and vision. Oh my goodness, you can't beat that. People are paying a heck of a lot more for their medical, and so I have that benefit. And get my health care at the VA, and they've improved it so much than in the past. So I can't complain. I get good health care. It helps that I'm healthy. I'm very fortunate. And then the pension. And I look at it as I won the lottery. I won $1 million, and instead of the lump sum, I took the annuity. That's the way I look at that monthly pension check. Each month is the annuity from that $1 million. But boy, do you pay a price to earn that, and a sacrifice, and the lifestyle that you live in the military. It's not 9 to 5, and you sacrifice a lot, the long hours, the time away from home, and discomforts and hardships that you endure in the military. So you do earn that retirement. And so when it comes into my direct deposit each month, I can honestly say I earned every penny of it. I busted my butt for that retirement. But there are other easier ways out there to make a living. But those are still benefits of joining the military. Some negatives. There was a book written by Elizabeth Wheel Greenberg, 10 Excellent Reasons Not to Join the Military. And this is what she put. She broke it down in her chapters here. I haven't read the book, but I got online and could read some of the reviews and the breakdown of her book. Here are the 10 reasons she had, which I can relate to. Well, number 1, you may be killed. Yeah, you're risking your life. Number 2, you may have to kill other people. Number 3, you may be injured. Yes, you can. Number 4, you may not receive proper medical care. Number 5, you may suffer long-term health problems. And a lot of guys out there do, and physically and mentally. Number 6, you may be lied to. Like my recruiter lied to me. 7, you may face discrimination. You might suffer from that, depending on who you are. You may be ordered to do things against your beliefs. You may find it difficult to leave the military. I've seen that, where you're in for a period of time, and you think, well, I've been in this long, I'm already at the halfway point, I might as well stay the other 10 years. So yeah, you may find it difficult. And then some folks, yeah, you're getting the good pay, the good benefits, and they just stick it out and do it. And number 10, you have other choices. And I'm thinking, she's saying you have other choices besides joining the military, which you do have other choices out here instead of living that lifestyle. And if I may add from her, is that it's a strain on your family. I was always single. I'm a lifelong bachelor. I never married. But I saw the strain that the military had on the married men. And well, even the single guys that had girlfriends and being away from their loved one. And I saw a lot of divorce in the military. The military has a high divorce rate just by the nature of the job. And we're gone for months at a time. And think of the strain that it has. And also, depending on what a person does in the military, whatever job they had, oftentimes the skills that they earned in the military aren't transferable to the civilian world. Whether they worked in field artillery, or they worked on some type of a specialized piece of equipment that in the civilian world is not transferable. And so that is a negative. So if you're going to join the military, think about something that perhaps you could use on the outside. And then the time loss. So you spend all that time perhaps being that artilleryman, and then you get out of the military and now you're starting from scratch to learn something else. And then hopefully those folks have the GI Bill, which you have to pay into initially. I think they take $100 a month. I don't know if it's, well, when I was in, it was $100 a month. It might have changed for the first 12 months to qualify for the GI Bill. And I used every penny of it. I used it while I was in active duty too, and earning my bachelor's. And then my last 5 years in the military, I worked on my master's degree, and then used tuition assistance while I was in, and then I used the GI Bill to help pay for books that the tuition assistance didn't cover. Or some of the classes were that expensive that tuition assistance didn't cover, but I used the GI Bill top up to pay for it. So that was a good thing. And then when I got out, I was a helicopter pilot, but then I was looking at going into the airline, so I used the rest of my GI Bill for fixed wing training. So I was able to get my airplane ratings using that GI Bill. And then I got a letter that I had zero balance left in my GI Bill. So I used it up. I squeezed every bit of that. So those are some of the negatives that I can think of. So there are some positives, there are some negatives. And then later, after I retired, I came across this man, General Smedley Butler, who fought in the Mexican Revolution, World War I. He was born in 1881. He died in 1940. He did 34 years in the Marines. And then he became an anti-war activist. And I tell you, if I would have came across General Smedley Butler and read his book's called War is a Racket. And I think that if I would have came across his book, I may not have joined the military. Here's a quote of his. He said, "I served in all commission ranks from second lieutenant to major general. And during that period, I spent most of my time being a high-class muscle man for big business, for Wall Street, and for the bankers. In short, I was a racketeer for capitalism. I suspected I was just part of the racket all the time. Now I am sure of it." General Smedley Butler said that. And I tell you, I'm an Afghanistan war vet. I was in Operation Enduring Freedom. Prior to that, when I was in the Special Forces, I was part of the counter-drug war, working in Central South America. And I could see it firsthand, a lot of the waste. Sometimes I think a lot of the things we do is futile. And you see, as well, even General Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, he talked about and warned against the military-industrial complex. And it's big business, the military, and these military contracts, and a lot of defense contractors, which I saw firsthand in the military, and how a lot of those guys were former military, got out, and they're making 2 and 3 and 4 times more than what they were making in the military doing defense contract work. So there's money to be made outside working for these organizations, the Northrop Grummans and the security contractors and the DynCorp and all of them. Just go right on down the list. And so it's big business. And again, I saw it firsthand, and then we saw recently the Afghan withdrawal and what we left behind in equipment that the Taliban now has a hold of. And you think about all that money spent and the folks that we lost and the people that are now permanently injured, who have lost limbs and have suffered from mental trauma from their experiences in the military. And you have to then ask, as we look at the people that we lost, why? Was it all in vain? Was it all for nothing? And same thing with the Vietnam War, and we lost so many people in that war. But I was young at the time, naive, and I thought I was doing something for the greater good, joining the military and defense of the homeland, patriotism, red, white, and blue, American flag. And now, as I've further reflect, I can now agree with General Smedley Butler. War is a racket. You're really not fighting for the country, really, and you're helping the big government. And I think we are pawns in the grand scheme of things and expendable. And what a terrible loss when we lose people in this. So, knowing what I know now, I probably would not have joined. I wanted to get away. I could have gotten away other ways. I could have just decided to go backpacking in Europe if I wanted to leave instead of going in the military. I could have left the town and went and seen and did things other ways. If I wanted to later go to school, there's scholarships I'm sure I probably could have dug up. Or I could have done it the old school way and took out student loans and worked and paid my loan off. I could have done that. I could have gone to a trade school and learned a trade and then later started my own business. And I think that would have been a great way to go about it. So there's so many different avenues now to join the military. And my only thing is, if somebody wants to join and their heart is just dead set on it, they want to go do it and see if they can do it and go be a Navy SEAL. If they want to join the Marines, they want to join the Coast Guard, Navy, you want to go be a Green Beret, or then go for it. Do a couple years. You want to take advantage of the economic reasons for it and get the pay and take your chances and get the college money if you have no other way. Then sure, go ahead and do it. But also realize now there are other ways to do this now in life, and realize what you're getting into, and maybe maybe get that book by Elizabeth Wheel Greenberg about reasons not to join, or even look on YouTube other videos from other veterans and hear their stories. And yes, it does take a toll on you, and depending on the job that you have. And I'm very fortunate, even with being in special forces and all that, my body held up. I'm very fortunate that I can still do and be active. And I think the only thing I really suffer from is just being a commissioned officer, and how it was you did so much administrative things. It was so much email and PowerPoints and Excel spreadsheets and a lot of memos. And I remember I worked in a S3 shop during my last year in the military, and it was always chaotic in there, a lot of reacting, and you had a lot of people working in their own stations, their own desk. I had my own desk, and oftentimes you didn't hear any phone ringing. All you heard was keyboards, people pounding on computers, just the constant typing, typing, typing. And that's what it was, answering emails, doing the paperwork. And there were times when I left the military, I'd wake up thinking I was back in that S3 shop, or I'd wake up hearing the sound of keyboards. That was my PTSD, thinking I was back in that S3, banging on a keyboard, looking at a computer screen. Oh, and I saw the writing on the wall. And I think that was another reason why I decided to retire. Sometimes I think maybe I should have reverted back to warrant officer, and I probably could have stayed in a few more years. But for some reason at the time, I didn't think to do that. But looking back on it, I wished I would have just reverted back to a warrant officer, resigned my commission, and flew helicopters and tracked a certain avenue as a warrant officer, whether that was a instructor pilot or a maintenance test pilot, safety or tactical operations. Maintenance would have been, I think, my track of choice, since I had a maintenance background when I first joined being a helicopter turbine engine mechanic. I would have been a maintenance warrant. And so that's something I regret and I wish I would have done. But either way, it's all in the past now. And but yes, there's a lot of politics now involved in it, bureaucracy, red tape. It's digital, a lot of email. Oftentimes you're having to jump through hoops, and you're doing a lot of reacting, and then instead of being proactive. That was one of my pet peeves. A lot of hair on fire, being reactive. And as a commission guy, you have a lot of times you can't get a lot of your administrative stuff done during the day because you're so busy putting out fires and reacting. And so you've got your evals to do, your memos to write. And you know what I used to do? I used to, on Saturdays, from about 8 o'clock in the morning till about noon to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I was catching up on administrative duties. I kid you not. I'd put on a pot of coffee on my home, and then I'd get on my home computer and catch up on all my administrative stuff because I couldn't get it done during the week because I was so doggone busy doing all the other stuff, trying to solve problems and try to get somebody their orders, or somebody's got an Army school that they're going to and they haven't got their orders yet, or they don't have this yet. And it was oftentimes a nightmare. And then near the end of my career there, I was dreading going into work. And I'd, get in my vehicle and drive to the post and get out of my vehicle and approach the building and walk up them stairs and and prep myself for another day. Oh man. And it was that way all day long. So people would ask me, Jim, do you miss it? I don't miss that. I don't miss all that doggone paperwork. I don't miss all the doggone jumping through hoops. I don't miss the hours spent in front of the computer. I don't miss any of that. None of it. And the only thing I miss is the camaraderie. I miss flying the Black Hawk. But the camaraderie, being a part of something, and I miss that aspect of it. But the rest of it, I don't. So to recap, I think someone needs to take a serious look if they want to join the military today and realize there are other ways you can serve. There's other things you can do now. And just realize it's not what you think it is. And we are definitely a part of a big industrial complex. War is a racket. The military is a business. Know that you're going to be a part of that. And it's not this patriotic thing that you think that you're doing and defending the homeland. And now I think we've got more issues going on here now inside than we do from outside threats, unless you count the open border. But anyway, that's a different story. But you can go about it a different way. And besides doing the military, unless you really have your heart set on it. And but I tell you, if I had it over to do again, knowing what I know now, I probably would not have joined. So don't want to get too much longer. That is it. And my take on it from someone who's been in the military, or at least from the Army, who ended up retiring. That's my take on it. And so thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.